Why don't we start with NXT, because WrestleMania kind of goes together, and NXT was NXT.
NXT was it doesn't really go together, does it? With the other, well, this was the NXT carry out and delivery show. That's what they called it, right? Carry out and delivery. Or was it stand and deliver? I forget which.
Take and deliver.
Take and deliver, or whatever the case may be.
Was it not taken? It was stand and deliver. That's what I did last time. Stand and deliver.
Take and deliver.
I don't know why I keep thinking it's take and deliver.
Takeover is what you're thinking of.
I guess so.
Well, they took over the American Airlines Arena, and boy, could you tell the crowd had to get in that building at 10 in the morning, and they were like, we want to like this, but we're so tired. I've been on a number of, not a ton, but a number of wrestling shows over the past 40 years that took place on Saturday afternoon at like noon or 1 o'clock, and it's not easy. It's even if the people are into you and they know what's going on and everything, it's still it's hard to get a crowd to lose their mind at a wrestling match at noon in the day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just something about it.
The sun being right over their head usually is what's about it.
Oh, well, they were the American Airlines Arena, at least, so they had a roof. But still, it's your body clock. It's not time to scream and yell yet. And they wanted to start me off screaming and yelling the first match, and I'm gonna talk about a rule that I adopted over these shows, and you'll hear it brought into play a number of times. I wasn't going to watch any of these multi-man or multi-woman or multi-talent fiasco matches. Because they're never any good. I'm not going to fucking like them. There's plenty of other stuff to critique where they actually were trying to be serious and professional without these clusterfucks getting in the way. And especially also then when you have a 5-man ladder match that starts the show. Everyone for himself, 5 men, 18 ladders, somebody's going to get fucking paralyzed. I would say somebody's going to break their neck, but they've already done that and they didn't even need any ladders. So the opening match was for the North American title, Carmelo with his friend Trick against Pablo Escobar, against Grayson Waller, against Solo Sikoa, against Cameron Grimes. By the way, Solo Sikoa is the brother of the Usos. He's Rikishi's son. A bunch of people pointed that out when I said he's obviously got experience. He may not even have experience. He's just a Samoan. They can all fucking work.
I like when they won't even acknowledge his family name and his family's on the roster.
Well, yeah, that...
Steiner, at least his dad and uncle are retired. They haven't been there. His brothers are the World Tag Team Champions. Let's not call him Uso. Let's not confuse people.
Yeah, well, it is confusing. But I've tried and we've tried, and we do like Cameron Grimes. He's a great worker. He's a great talker. He's got personality. And you can tell he loves the wrestling business, and they've presented him as such a silly fuck, and he's been put in so many preposterous fake-looking deals, and they obviously encourage him to, or flat out tell him to, over-exaggerate every goofy part of his gimmick. So it's put me off of him.
This is the first time I saw him since you told me that he trimmed his hair.
Well, no, it's growing back now. He was bald as an egg, chest, back, face. They peeled him. And now he's got a little patch of chest hair and a little bit more beard. So that's a plus, but anyway, no way I'm watching a 5-man ladder match. And Cameron Grimes won. Medley good at that, but it was 30 minutes into this fucking show before this thing was over with. And was anyone carried out in an ambulance? I didn't hear about it.
It's crazy that we're at the point where a multi-person ladder match doesn't really register anymore. It's just like, hey, I've seen this. Nothing special to me. I like that they're doing something with Grimes. I hate that they tried to water down his incredibly unique look. We'll see what happens with that going forward, but it makes me think back to when we used to watch some of those takeovers. It was like every match on the show was like, ooh, this is an interesting match. This is a good match. This is something I'm looking forward to. There was a lot of stuff on this show. It was like, okay, I'm just waiting to get to one or two things.
Well, and they've turned it into the main roster show, but with people that most people haven't ever heard of. Green talent doing multiple man ladder matches and all the phoniness that Vince is 76. How old is Bruce Pritchard? He's a year or two younger than me. So people with combined age of over 130 are determining that all this silliness on NXT will get the young people to watch. Because they're texting. Look, they're texting on the wrestling program. We must watch this now. Next match, Tony D'Angelo and Tommaso Ciampa. Now, since this is an actual match with two guys against each other, I will watch this. And also, Ciampa's brilliant in most cases. Tony D'Angelo is the worst, stereotype of a 1990s Vince gimmick. Who is AJ Galante? Is he a stooge on NXT now, or is he another one of these celebrities that we don't know who the fuck they are?
I feel weird saying I don't know who he is, but I have no idea who he is. But they made it sound like he was the star of some show on Netflix, I think. So he's some sort of celebrity of some renown somewhere. I just don't know who he is.
He was in Tony's corner, and he was happy about the whole thing.
This is the first time I've seen Tony D'Angelo all these weeks of you talking about this guy. He's ridiculous.
There's a guy under there that seems like he can work a little bit. And he's got some size to him, but they've made it so goofy that, But the main reason to watch this is because Ciampa has been teasing either he's leaving NXT. He's been on Raw a couple times at the main roster. Or I don't know if he's been on, you know what I'm saying? He's been on the been at the Raw programs the past few weeks. He was in that fucking stinky Battle Royal on SmackDown. He's going to the main roster apparently, but they're acting like he may be retiring, and he's been acting like he's going to a funeral. Leaving NXT, if he's going to the main roster, he ain't happy about it. Anyway, that's been the tease of the whole thing because of his cryptic interviews and saying goodbye and all that stuff. And this pretty well, as it unfolded, I would imagine this was his farewell to NXT. Is it going to come out next week that he said, if I can't stay in NXT, if I've got to go to one of those other rotten shows, I'm just going to quit? Or is he going to take his punishment of going to the main roster and like it? He was doing all the tribute stuff when he got in on his entrance. He did the Triple H spit. He did the Shawn Michaels double bicep. And then, the match, Ciampa's fantastic. D'Angelo tried to keep up as best he could, but Ciampa, he's ripped to shreds physically. He's got cardio. He looks great. Did you notice, are they doing the bullshit floor camera zooms they do on Raw on NXT 2 now? Because I was seeing a lot of meh.
I didn't notice, but I'm kind of used to it, but it wouldn't surprise me considering it's now in the hands of Vince and, his people.
Well, anyway, there was a little heat. Ciampa made a comeback, missed a knee. Tony D'Angelo hit a suplex. Ciampa went for they went back and forth. And finally, Ciampa kicked it up a little bit and ripped his shirt off and just chopped him to death. Because D'Angelo, since he actually has a normal body, they've told him to wear a shirt, I guess, to cover it up. But, again, Ciampa did a lot of good stuff there when they were on the buckles quite a while. But D'Angelo pushes him off. He comes off. Ciampa hits a nice, sweet knee lift. They trade the 1-2s. It's cooking. And then D'Angelo goes over and pulls a crowbar out from in between the stairs and the ring, where he's obviously left it there. Somebody's left it there. But the point is, he pulls the crowbar. Nobody's bumped the ref. Nobody's distracting the ref. He brings the crowbar in and takes a swing at Ciampa, and Ciampa ducks it. And the referee just takes the crowbar away from D'Angelo and turns around and starts handing it out to some ring stooge. Is now a attempted homicide with a crowbar is not a disqualification in front of the referee now.
Well, we've seen crowbars to cars like Sammy Guevara and Ty Conte to Dan Lambert's car outside. That's not an offense to get you arrested. And either, I guess, he's using a crowbar in any way. I think Devin Storm needs to make a comeback, is what I'm saying.
He's never been away. But finally, the referee's putting the crowbar out. Can't do that, boys. And D'Angelo gives Ciampa a nut shot and hits his finish. But Ciampa kicks out. Okay. So then D'Angelo goes and gets the crowbar again. And this time the referee, I guess, just watches him, goes out, and he's going to get the crowbar and bring it back in. But as he's coming in, Ciampa hits the widow's bell and the fairy tale ending. And D'Angelo kicks out of it. And then Ciampa gets crossface. D'Angelo gets a rope break. Ciampa rolls out after him, and D'Angelo DDTs him on the bare floor where Ciampa had pulled the mats up earlier and they didn't use it, and then rolls Ciampa back in the ring and gives him, the way he built up for it, you would think it was Bruiser Brody's big boot, but Ciampa's there on his knees, and D'Angelo just hit him with a shitty-looking flat-footed kick in the back of the head. Cover 1, 2, 3. The finish was not only flat, but it was kind of bizarre. Why did they need to do? Did they think they're helping Tommaso? He kicks out after the nut shot, so they have to go get the crowbar again. That was all over the place at the end. If you're gonna hit the guy in the nuts when the referee's distracted, and the guy's going to kick out after a fucking nut shot when you just try to crowbar, I don't fucking know. And then they build up to a flat-footed kick in the back of the head. What'd you think?
I thought it was all right. I thought the crowd heard it, but I thought the crowd heard everything throughout this show, although there were some things that hurt itself throughout the show. I thought it was all right. I wasn't digging Tony D'Angelo. It's the first time I've seen him work. Maybe it's because I thought the gimmick was so ridiculous just from the little vignette of him driving to the arena, talking as over the top. I have so many friends.
You know a few Italians from Jersey, don't you?
I know a few towns from Brooklyn where he's purportedly from, his character. I've never seen it over the top. It's like Ford Fairlane. It's ridiculous. Hey, it's ridiculous.
A bit of bee, a bit of ba, a bit of boo.
So, I mean, it's kind of weird when you have someone who's, he may not be Doink the Clown, but it's still a clown character, wrestling someone who's just a serious guy. You said he's shredded. When he was out there, and I'm sure you'll talk about the post-match, when he was out there with Triple H and they hugged heads, I don't know what you call it, bonked heads and held it.
Yeah.
I said, he looks like a miniature Triple H. Same look.
Yeah.
Same body type. I mean, he's not as big a guy as Paul Levesque is in real life, so he can't get to that size, but look at what he's done to his body from where he started to where he is now. He's like a miniature Triple H.
Well, and that's, basically the thing is after the heel wins and he gets hugged by his apparent celebrity friend, and then they leave Ciampa in the ring so the crowd can chant, "Thank you, Ciampa," blah, blah, blah. And he's going to the back, and you can tell that he didn't know this was coming. Triple H's music hits, or some music that wasn't Triple H's "Time to Play the Game."
It was Triple H's.
Was it?
The word game was in there somewhere. It was Triple H's.
Well, but it wasn't the "Time to Play the Game" thing. It's all about the game and who wins it or whatever the fuck.
Well, he's got a bunch of different things.
He's got a bunch of songs.
It was Lemmy. It was definitely Lemmy.
It was Lemmy? Lemmy Winks?
That's the singer. No, not Lemmy Winks. Lemmy from Motorhead.
Here comes Triple H and stops Ciampa, go back out, and he hugs him, and they talk and embrace, and Triple H holds his hand up and everything, and you could tell Tommaso was emotional. He's probably, both proud of what he did there and scared shitless of what he's going to have to do in the future. But that was a nice moment that he came out and raised Tommaso's hand and etc.
He really is, I guess, the last of the Triple H guys there, right?
Yeah, I would think. I mean, there might be a few referees or backstage personnel running around, but I think they've gutted the talent roster.
But yeah, in terms of, actually, I should clarify, I'm sure Triple H has a claim for Braun Breaker or various other people, but in terms of indie talent that Triple H went around and signed up, he's like the last of it.
Yeah. And now there's somebody else that's collecting all the indie talent, but they don't bring them in and teach them anything. They just bring them in and let them stay stupid. Speaking of staying stupid, the next match, and there's a pattern here. Every time a championship is on the line, they've muddied it up with 18 people involved in it. The ladder match was 5 people for the North American title. Here, the tag team title with 3 teams. Imperium, the Creed Brothers, and MSK. I will make a couple of observations. I saw MSK's entrance, and their gyrations and gesticulations and hopping up and down make me hate them even more than their prison tattoos, their bad hair, and their goofy teamwork. And the Imperium, old Marcel and Fabian, they look fantastic physically. They look like they completely don't belong with the rest of these yahoos. They look like they could be working for fucking Otto Vons in the 70s, right? Athletes, wrestlers. But this is a triple threat match, so it's going to suck, plus MXSK. So what happened?
Well, you didn't say anything about the Creed Brothers.
Oh, well, the Creed Brothers, if they didn't have the job guy manager that is never responsible for any heinous acts and the outfits that don't make them look like the Steiners did when they started wrestling as ex-amateurs, but just kind of like goofy kids that wandered in from the high school gym. And the fact that, again, this is a 3-way, so they're green and you can't tell what the fuck they know because it's a 3-way. Yeah, I didn't mention them. Otherwise than that...
Was that the review of the match?
That was the review of the match. It's a 3-way. I've adopted a rule for this weekend. They're not going to be any good. And it's the same thing over and over that everybody in every company does. So what am I going to sit there and fucking make myself miserable for?
Do you think the amount of 3-ways that we see, especially on a big show, is it because they want to get people on the show? Is it because it's just bad booking? Is it because it's lazy booking? I mean, why do you think we see so many multi-person matches, and how many of them are just because they're trying to cram people on a show?
I think there is an element of that, especially, and I mean, obviously with the battle royals, that's exactly what that is. Let's let everybody be on the show. You know what? If everybody gets on every big show, then it's not really a milestone to get on the big show, is it? Because everybody does. But also, since almost nobody on the writing team, I would have to think, in the WWE today was actually a fan of wrestling before 15 years ago, because they're probably in their fucking 30s, and they've got Michael Hayes and a few of the other ex-wrestler producers so pussy-whipped to sports entertainment that they think that they're wrong and that this modern way of booking is right. And so they think that, oh, well, this will be exciting. They think like marks now. Remember, I've said many times, marks will come up with a dream match in their head and write it down on paper, a la Tony Khan, and they won't bother to think of how it will actually transpire and whether everybody will look good or not, because the idea of these 4 people fighting all for themselves is just so tantalizing to their mind. And they don't bother to think of what it's actually going to look like or what you're going to do, or is it going to be good or bad for anybody or whatever the case. And it's just a mess. But that's, I mean, you know, I expect that from Tony because that's his experience, playbooking in his notebooks. But this is a $1 billion company. To give the other girls a fucking check and have if you're going to have a women's title match, which was up next, have a challenger hot and ready to go for that women's title and fucking give the other 2 girls a check to say, thank you, we'll try next year. Or the same thing with one of the tag teams or 3 of the 5 people in the ladder match. It's just the same. And if you can go to an outlaw show at a high school gym anywhere in the country and see a 4 or 5 person quintuple threat match. It's ridiculous. And so it's part of both. It's, oh, we got to get these people on the show. They've been so loyal. Well, then book them in something people would want to pay to see instead of just throwing everybody out there. The women's title match, Mandy Rose versus Cora Jade versus Io Shirai versus Kaylee Ray. If I'm not going to watch men in a triple threat tag match or a 5-way ladder match, I ain't going to watch 4 women go for the women's title of the third level brand. But at least this was free on Peacock. Did I miss anything with the women's match?
Nothing that you would enjoy. I thought Cora Jade showed some promise. I think I was surprised by how big the crowd popped for Mandy Rose winning. I don't know if it was because they were surprised that she kept the title or just she's actually getting over with the NXT fans, whatever that may be, or the traveling WrestleMania fans. But
she's a heel, right?
She's a heel. I think she's a heel.
You said they popped. Did they pop or did they cheer? Did they go, oh, or did they just, yay?
They popped like they were happy, like, yay.
So the heel wins and they're all happy. Well, that's been presented perfectly then.
Yeah, maybe she's a friendly heel.
All right, let's get back into the wrestling business because the next match, now we're getting to the meat of the matter. Walter and LA Knight. And I saw somebody on Twitter say, I liked Walter better before he lost the weight. He looked like more of a monster. I'm telling you, I don't think that his weight loss has hurt his aura. It's the way he carries himself. And now he's in great shape. He looks like Gene Kiniski. The fucking no muscular definition, but he's in shape and his cardio and he doesn't stop coming at you. He's not even wearing knee pads. He got a fucking haircut like a white guy from the 50s, and you can't get him to stop coming at you or get him off of you. It's like Gene Kiniski if he was born in Germany. And LA Knight is a classic professional wrestler. He can talk, he can bump, he can work, he can sell. He's got personality. So, again, Walter and LA Knight here, let's add both of those guys to the list of people who look more like a world champion than old Adam Page does. These are the guys in the WWE developmental, for fuck's sake. And it was an aggressive match from the start. Walter is Walter. He's aggressive. He manhandles people. And LA Knight stays in it because he's the worker. And in this position, he's a babyface. He can sell, but he doesn't die. He keeps coming. And the match made sense. From the time that Walter cut him off and hit the powerbomb on the apron on LA's back, he worked on his back, giving him hard buckles. At one point, LA reversed the second buckle and gave Walter a backdrop. That may have been the only backdrop I saw in 20 hours of watching wrestling this week. It was so refreshing. And I think, was there one chop in this match? One of the Walters, real drawback and boom, and he leveled him with it.
I don't think so.
Did you see a bunch more chops? There was that one chop that he leveled him with it, but he didn't, like in the match with Ilya, they just chopped the piss out of each other. Right. This was a completely different match. Walter can do, he's still always Walter, but he can do everything. He doesn't have to just chop a guy. And LA, probably being an old school type of guy, maybe had suggested a moratorium on the chops for this one. LA made a comeback. Boom, stomped the mud hole in him, kept coming, kept on him. Did you see the jump up where he superplexed Walter off the top? That was pretty. And then he hit a big move, got a 2 count, went for the moonsault, and Walter crotched him on the turnbuckle, and as he bumped in, Walter goes right to the top, splash to the back, which is what he's been working on through the whole match, spins him up, gives him a powerbomb on the back. 1, 2, 3. That was a great pro wrestling match.
You want me to disagree with you?
No.
It was a very good match. I wouldn't say great.
Hop in with your comments.
I wouldn't say great. I would say very good. LA Knight's really impressive. It's weird that he's on the NXT roster. First time I've seen Walter since the weight loss, the toning up. It's an adjustment. It's different because I haven't seen him in a while, but he's still got that face. And that face is, that's what'll make him the money more than even the size.
Yeah. He looks like a U-boat captain.
He does. Gunther Stark, I believe, would be the U-boat captain's name from what we remember.
Yeah. Well, looking like one without naming him after one is the good thing.
The only other thing I'll say is you said it looked nice. I thought that superplex spot was the highlight of the match. It looked incredible. Just because of the size of Walter, to see him go up and over.
Yeah.
It looked incredible.
And LA's jump. Yeah, he's a grown man too. But anyway, there's some talent sprinkled in here that you could get something out of. It's just that you have to skip through the 17-man fiasco match right afterwards to get to the next one. Which, by the way, are we ready for the main event?
I don't know. I saw it, so I don't know.
You didn't like it.
I thought it was okay. For me, it was a letdown. I don't know what I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting from the crowd, but it wasn't what I was expecting. And also, I don't know. I hate to say they should have done the finish I think they should have done, but I thought it was time. I wouldn't have beaten Steiner. That's just me.
Well, I kind of see what they're doing because I'm thinking that they may be afraid they're about to Rocky Maivia Braun Breaker. Too much, even though he's so much more likable and a better haircut than poor Rocky when he came out and had to smile with the spangles and the
just let him talk.
Streamers on.
Just let him talk. He won't be Rocky Maivia. Just let him talk on the mic and people will hear what kind of person he is. Like, oh boy, I want to see this guy fight.
But I was surprised too that they didn't make the move to put it back on him on the big show. And that's why that Ziggler referenced in his promo, well, everybody thinks this is going to be the big happy ending for, Braun Breaker and he's going to get the big win. Well, I got other plans. And they, this was really, this was a one-match show. Everybody wanted to see this match. The other matches that we've just described, they're in town for WrestleMania, so they're sitting there, but I don't know that this card would have been stellar without this match. They did a nice package to build it. They had the little bit of the walk backstage. They had Steiner comes up on a NXT colored psychedelic chainsaw and revs it up and comes out. Well, you can buy those regularly at Home Depot and Lowe's. They're on sale now. The NXT brand model. But he revs it up and comes out on the stage and cuts the X in half in NXT that's there. But did you see the one thing that I know they're a big publicly traded company and I know there's a lot of liability issues in the major arenas and live television and blah, blah, blah. But did you see what killed the whole thing for me? I love Braun Steiner. But it killed the whole thing for me with the chainsaw. What was it? Did you see what killed it for me?
I don't know what killed it for you. Was it right after he cut through the middle of the X and then he had to put it down?
No, it's when he had to take his safety goggles off.
Oh, that's right.
Here's it. Can you imagine if Terry Funk had been in that position? Okay, Terry, chainsaw Charlie. Well, you're going to rev that chainsaw up and cut that X in half. But right before you do, we want you to duck down behind the X and put on the safety goggles and then chainsaw through the X that's obviously balsa wood or some kind of lightweight material anyway, and then take the safety goggles off and act like you. Can you see Terry Funk wearing safety goggles? Can you see Rick Steiner wearing safety goggles? That's the only thing. I know
I think Terry Funk would hurt himself. I can see Terry Funk getting really into it and just leaning back and going back.
Yeah, he'd probably fucking chainsaw off his arm at the elbow or whatever. But the point is, if it had been years ago before these things became such issues, they would have, whoever the babyface was, Rick Steiner, Terry Funk, whoever was, oh, sure, I'll put the goggles on. And then they'd have chainsawed through the thing and half the fucking stage with no goggles on. But they give this guy a chainsaw so he could look like a fucking badass second coming of Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And he's wearing safety goggles. But nevertheless, he looks great. And they got in the ring and the bell rang. And again, I know you said the crowd was not into this because it was that time of day. They weren't into that. They were into it, but not like the other shows that happen at night. And you could tell that I think Steiner felt a little more pressure on this one than he has on the TV matches because it's a big weekend and a big match and et cetera, et cetera. But you could detect a couple of times the poor Braun Steiner needed a cue card. But that's why Dolph Ziggler was there. That's the whole reason they've chosen Ziggler and Rude, because they're such experienced professionals, such good workers, such pros. They can go in there and they can do on-the-job training with the guys in NXT. That's why this is happening. But there was a couple of bobbles. At one point, Dolph shot him off, reverse. Ziggler's going to go to leapfrog up, and Steiner's going to catch him and power slam him, but Steiner forgot to catch him. He just kind of ran into him. But they went back and got it. And, you know, the whole thing was where they kicked Rude out of ringside, by the way, for trying to interfere. But basically, it was a chance to give Braun Steiner a main event match with a guy that can keep him on track, which he had to a couple times. And still, for a guy with that level of experience, I thought he did fine. You know, at one point, during Ziggler getting the heat, Steiner seemed to have trouble understanding how to fire up and fight back from underneath and get stopped by the heel rather than just kind of wander around and let the heel come to him. But suddenly, Steiner slipped out of a neckbreaker attempt and went from zero to hero almost instantly. Boom! It was time to go. Big comeback, a spinning sidewalk slam. I wrote oof. I'm thinking in days gone by, all the guys in the locker room, when Ziggler came back in, they said, what the fuck? Do you owe him trance? What is the issue here? The sidewalk slam almost flattened him. Then he did a Frankensteiner off the top rope, 2 count. Then a spear, another oof, 2 count. I feel sorry for Dolph Ziggler. And it's not like he's doing it maliciously, but he's same as his father and his uncle. He's so big and strong and fucking good Lord. So then Ziggler shit-canned Steiner to the floor. And, you know, at that point, they're on borrowed time there. It seemed like they were kind of bobbling, but Steiner foiled a kick that Ziggler went for, hit another spear, another oof. And then he did the press into the power slam finish, and that's where Rude reappeared at ringside and pulled Ziggler out from under the cover. And so Steiner was able, as Rude was at ringside getting Ziggler all back together, Steiner hit a cannonball dive over the top rope on both of them, and that looked like an oof too. There was none of this pretty, I'm going to fly like an eagle over the top, and the guys at the bottom waiting like, oh, we'll catch you. It was like, bam, it looked like a bowling ball being thrown into 2 fucking pins. So then he throws Ziggler into the ring, runs Rude into the steps, and comes back in the ring, and right as he starts to stand up, Ziggler hits a famouser and a zigzag, and cover 1, 2, he kicked out, and now they had him because they thought that was it. So, boom, they went. And then Ziggler comes off with the big elbow off the top for a 2 count and starts tuning up the super kick. But Steiner is back up to his feet, clothesline, spear, goes for the press slam. Ziggler reaches down and rakes his eyes, pushes him into the exposed turnbuckle that we actually forgot had been exposed a while back, and hit him with a super kick, 1, 2, 3. It had its moments. They got the crowd on that one false finish, and at least they had him at the end there. Steiner's human. He makes a few mistakes, but I mean, this was, if it was the best wrestling match on the show was obviously Walter and LA Knight, but this was, I thought, adequate for what the people came to see.
I guess I thought it was flat. I just thought it was flat. I think the finish was flat. I think the crowd was flat. But I think you're there for WrestleMania. They inducted his dad and his uncle into the Hall of Fame. You could have had a really special moment. Instead, the show ended flat. I mean, there were other things they could have done.
Well, and you know, that is, I wonder why that, you know, Rick and Scott were there and they couldn't even do some kind of, well, I guess, I don't know. Scott had a heart issue. I was going to say, couldn't they have been the ones to come out and fucking pick Rude up and carry him off? That would have got the people into it. But Scott's had a heart issue and Rick's running for mayor or something. So who knows? I don't know.
Should run for dog catcher.
Hey!
I mean, he would be good at it. Dog-faced gremlin.
Well, yeah, he can speak to the animals. He knows their language.
Well, Jim, of course, Rick Steiner was known as the dog-faced gremlin. And perhaps Rick Steiner, looking back, looking in the mirror, sees that he's no longer the dog-faced gremlin he once was. Perhaps he's shaved off the hair off his face. Perhaps the hair on his head is gone. Perhaps he could have done something to keep the dog-faced gremlin look and keep his hair.
Well, you know, I think you're right, Brian. It took you a while to get there, but you've arrived at the destination. And if you folks out there in podcast land are having problems with your hair, you need to keep it with Keeps. Now, of course, it won't work on your face. Rick has lost some hair on his chinny chin, and the Keeps doesn't work on your chest or your back or your chin or your knuckles or anything like that. But if you want hair on the top of your head, folks, 2 out of 3 men will experience some form of hair loss by the time that they're 35. And even more these days when they just shave it for no reason. More than 50 million men in the United States suffer from male pattern baldness, but Keeps, the folks at Keeps.com, have not only for sale the only 2 FDA-approved medications, generic versions, that can prevent hair loss, so they're cheaper, more inexpensive, we'll say, but also they have a staff standing by, medical advisors, prescribers, and care specialists, 24/7 care and support, so that you can conveniently, virtually consult these doctors over the internet. You don't have to go anywhere in person, and the medications can be delivered straight to your door every 3 months. Yes, folks, right now you may look like a peeled egg, but in 6 months you're going to look like the Werewolf of London. Prevention is the key, because treatments can take 4 to 6 months to see results, so act fast, and we're going to save you some money. If you go to Keeps, KEEPS.com/JCE, you're going to get your first month of treatment for free. Keeps.com/JCE to get your first months of treatment for free. I'm telling you, folks, by September, October, your wife wakes up next to you, she's going to call animal control. She's going to think something has gone wrong. What's in the bed next to me? It's covered in hair. Keeps.com/JCE. Brian, I know that's a question you've asked yourself many times. What's in the bed next to me? It's covered with hair.
I've never asked that question. I always know who's in bed next to me, and I always have. You have to be in control of your senses, ladies and gentlemen.
You didn't mention anything about the hair.
Well, there's always hair. Girls have hair.
Covered with it?
Well, not all girls have hair, actually. Jada Pinkett doesn't have hair.
Wait a minute. I'll slap you.
Oh, no, not me, no.
You alopecia asshole, you.
All right, well.
Keeps. Keeps.com.
Keeps.